Hola Spanish learners from all over the world. Saludos desde Colombia. Yo me llamo Mikey.
Y mi nombre es Diego. Bienvenidos a un nuevo podcast de Cospanish.
For many Spanish learners, the correct use of the verbs ser and estar is something they usually struggle with. Since in English and some other languages they have only one verb to express everything that these two verbs mean in Spanish. That's why it's important to understand the difference between them and be able to use them correctly depending on the real message you want to deliver in conversations. Being aware of all these differences and uses, your messages won't lead to confusion when talking with another person in this language.
As you may know, ser and estar mean to be in English, and we generally use them in order to describe people, animals, or objects.
You are right, Diego. In today's podcast, we're gonna talk about the different uses of the verb ser, and in a second part of this podcast, we will cover the uses of estar. So, let's begin. First, we're gonna mention the different uses for the verb ser. We usually use this verb to talk about permanent things. In other words, things that don't change often.
Number 1. Names. Generally, your name is something that will be with you along your life and tells you apart from others. You know a person by the name because this is something permanent. For example, yo soy Diego.
I am Diego.
Nosotros somos Diego y Mikey.
We are Diego and Mikey.
Ella es Sandra.
She is Sandra. Number 2. Nationality. Nationalities are something we don't change normally. You might be living in a different country from where you were born, but it doesn't mean that you don't belong anymore to your birthplace. For example, yo soy de Colombia. Yo soy colombiano.
I am from Colombia. I am Colombian.
Note that we said soy because, first of all, we are using the pronoun yo soy, and second of all, because we're talking about something that we don't change. In this case, we shouldn't use estoy because it's a permanent idea. Tú no eres mexicano, eres peruano.
You are not Mexican, you are Peruvian.
We use eres this time because the pronoun is tú. Tú eres. From now on, you should use the verb ser when talking about the nationality of people, things, or animals. For example, Antonio Banderas es español.
Antonio Banderas is Spanish.
La samba es brasileña.
Zamba is Brazilian.
El ajolote es mexicano.
The axolotl is Mexican. Number 3. Belongings. When you own something, it means that there is a permanent state of belonging until you give it up if you want to. Take into consideration that we own one or more things. That is to say, we can use singular or plural words. For this rule, we use es, is for the singular, and son, are for the plural. Let's go over some examples. Este computador es mío.
This computer is mine.
Es because it's something singular. Estas llaves son tuyas.
These keys are yours.
Son because it's something plural. Este carro es de Juan.
This car is Juan's.
Estos libros son de Marta.
These books are Marta's. Number 4. Permanent descriptions. When we describe someone or something and we mention characteristics about them that are generally permanent, we should use the verb ser. For example, el inglés es un idioma global.
English is a global language.
Note that now English is a language that is spoken the most all over the world. That's why we state that it is a permanent thing. However, it doesn't mean that it always be. Changes might happen in the long term. Mi casa es grande.
My house is big.
At some point in the future, I could make it smaller, but it would be something I wouldn't do every day. María es alta.
Maria is tall.
Height is something that doesn't change frequently. For this reason, we should use ser instead of estar.
Number 5. Social relationships. This is a very broad concept that involves different levels of interaction with people around us, like family, friends, partner, school and workmates, neighbors, etc. Let's listen to some examples of each one. Carlos y Julia son mis padres y Felipe es mi hermano.
Carlos and Julia are my parents and Felipe is my brother.
We call this relationship permanent because it doesn't matter what happens, they will always be family. This is something that you cannot change. Tú eres mi mejor amigo.
You are my best friend.
This time we say it is permanent because it is a relationship in constant development, although at a certain point in life it could finish. Sandra y yo somos novios.
Sandra and I are girlfriend and boyfriend.
Miguel y Sasha son esposos.
Miguel and Sasha are husband and wife.
La señora Gómez es mi profesora.
Mrs. Gomez is my teacher.
In this case, Mrs. Gomez won't be my teacher forever. However, she will be for a long period of time. El señor Casas es mi jefe.
Mr. Casas is my boss.
Similarly to the previous example, this relationship is permanent since we don't have a different boss every day. Roberto es nuestro vecino.
Roberto is my neighbor.
As you can imagine, we use es for the same previous reasons.
Number 6. Personality. Our way of thinking, understanding the world, and interacting with others define who we are as individuals. These are aspects that make us different from others because we don't change them at will. They are part of our being. Since they are permanent characteristics, we should use ser instead of estar. For example, Lucía es tímida.
Lucia is shy.
Keeping this information in mind, it is understandable that the fact of being shy is part of her personality, and that is the way people see her. Ustedes son extrovertidos.
You all are extroverted.
That's the way they are. Nosotros somos pacientes.
We are patient. Number 7. Professions and occupations. What you do for a living is something you do practically every day. Doctors will be doctors, police officers will be police officers because they do the same thing day after day. So, if you mention what your profession or occupation is, use ser because it's something permanent until you decide so. Yo soy arquitecto.
I'm an architect.
Tú eres estudiante.
You are a student.
Ellos son camioneros.
They are truck drivers. As you remember, previously we mentioned that ser is generally used to talk about permanent things. However, there are 3 situations in which the idea is not that permanent because it can be modified at some point in the near future. But anyways, we can still use ser. Let's go over these 3 situations.
The first one is used when talking about future events. For example, la reunión es mañana en la tarde.
The meeting is tomorrow afternoon.
El cumpleaños de mi hermano es la próxima semana.
My brother's birthday is next week. The second situation is when telling the time. Although this is a concept that is always changing, in Spanish we never use estar but ser. For example, ¿qué hora es or qué horas son? Both questions mean
What time is it?
es la 1:30.
It's 1:30.
In this case, we use es because la 1 is singular. Son las 4 en punto.
It's 4 o'clock.
Now, as you can imagine, we use son because it is plural.
And the last one is when referring to impersonal things. In other words, when you state phrases that are not done by a person. For example, es importante estudiar.
It is important to study.
Es necesario reservar una habitación.
It is necessary to book a room.
Es recomendable practicar español.
It is recommendable to practice Spanish. Well, this is everything you should keep in mind when using ser in Spanish. Remember that in the second part of this podcast, we'll be talking about the different uses of the verb estar. So, what are you waiting for? Go and play it now.
Do you want to expand your knowledge and practice more about these or other topics? We invite you to meet our experienced professional Colombian tutors. All you have to do is to visit cospanish.com and book a lesson with any of them. We're waiting for you. Challenge yourself and start speaking Spanish.
Gracias por escuchar y hasta la próxima.